Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the Friendly Council deck building series. I am joined again by my co-host Hannes. Hello Hannes, it's been a while since we last recorded one.
Indeed, it has been too long. Hi, Miha. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, of course. And who else do we have on the recording today?
We have indeed a very special guest today, not only because of his deck building skills, actually, because he's also very active in the GOT community and is basically an essential pillar there. He has been one of the main organizers of this year's online Worlds Championships. So I'm really, really happy to have Dennis here with us today. Hello, Dennis.
Hello, folks. Happy to be here.
And Dennis is not only a pillar of the community, he is also one of the fastest men in the whole game, I think. And we might see that today as well. Dennis, what have you brought for us today? What are we building today?
Yeah, I've thought about it for a long time, which special deck I could present, but in the end, like in many tournaments, and like a lot of people used to say, I can only play one deck. Even if I had some success with some other decks recently, but yeah, most still think there is only one deck I can really play, and so I guess I also have to present this deck here. So I would go with Dark as the faction, and like you said, I like to play fast decks. I'm not sure if I'm the fastest guy generally without playing cards, but at least with cards I like to play fast decks, so I choose the Lord of the Crossing.
All right, amazing. Star Crossing, an all-time favorite and certainly super fast in your hands. So, let's see. When building the deck, where do you start?
I think where did I start actually? Because the deck I was playing for the last more than 3 years for now was created first in I think 2019 for the World Cup for Team Germany when Hanno had the idea or presented me a deck, a Star Crossing deck with small characters. So at this point, it wasn't, or now maybe it's usual to play only small characters, but back then I think it was special to not include cards like Rob Stark or like Wyman Mendeley or like Fast Eddard in a Star Crossing deck. So I liked the idea of him to play with small characters in a Star Crossing deck, and I that was the first time when I thought that kind of deck, and I tried it for the not really for the event, but for the qualifier for the event, and I think I didn't made it in the end, but I kept the deck and I played it and tuned it and changed it because of various restricted lists and redesigns and stuff like that in the last 3 years. And now the deck I want to present now is the version I played at Starlink this year.
All right. So a long history, many
Yeah.
tweaks, many necessary changes. And what does it look like now? So, like, what do you usually put in first in the deck? Characters or events, or do you start with the plot line?
I think firstly I think about what I want to achieve with the deck, and in this case it was like we said sometimes before, it was just to finish as fast as possible. Don't really care about what my opponent is doing, trying to force my opponent to react to what I'm doing. Um, and that's and then I think, okay, I want to achieve that. Which cards can help me with that? Um, Basically, I'm playing a lot of characters in my decks, so we could first start with something that goes also really fast. Because of the many characters, I can't put that many attachment and special locations and stuff like that in my deck. So there are no attachments at all in my deck. And we can also go through the locations a little bit faster because they are also not that special because, like I said, I just want to focus on my game. I don't have that many locations to work with my opponent, so I just need some economy. And because of that, I think in all my decks are 3 King's Roads, because this is the fastest kind of echo or location you can have with the reduction by 3. So I think in mostly all of my decks there are 3 King's Roads.
Makes
And
sense.
mostly there are also 3 of the 0 cost locations from the location I play. So in this case, 3 Hearty Groves are also, because of setup and the easy reduction, are also in mostly all my decks. Then I
Oh,
mostly don't play Rose Roads or stuff like that, but if the non-limited location is good, I also play them. So in this case for Stark, 3 times Northern Armory, just because it's the non-limited location and because Stand, of course, in a crossing deck is pretty valuable. If you have a renowned character, or if you have a stealth character, or you don't have a lot of characters and you need to do all 3 challenges, Stand is always valuable. So 3 times Northern Armory also.
makes sense.
And that's the whole echo package, like 9 locations. So when we come to the characters later, like I already said, there are cheap characters. So mostly those known 9 echolocations are enough for me. And there is only one more location to add, and this is one, not special ad, but it was an ad for the last Dalek. It wasn't in the versions I played before. I played one Iron Throne from the Long May He Reign, I think, yeah, Long May He Reign package.
All right, so the famous Nope throne, not the Dominance
Yes,
throne, right? Yeah.
yes. It was,
Okay.
I think, I'm not sure if it was in my first Sarlacc deck when I played it 2019. It was first in the deck, and then I put it out because, like I said before, I put every cards out that don't work towards my goal to finish the game fast and work against the opponent. So I put the Iron Throne out for a long time and only played with the 9 economy locations. But before this Dalek, there were in a lot of online games, a lot of players, especially the Chinese meta, played the Iron Throne, and there were a lot of decks like Reach Randall, which relied on one character, and I think it's a good addition in the meta we had to just put one Iron Throne in to deny those decks. If you can say Randall each turn, or if you can say in Doran's game against Martel or stuff like that. So one Iron Throne for me.
Sounds reasonable. So no attachments, just a few locations. And then what do you do next? Do you go to all the characters or do you put in the events you want to have?
I think we are doing the events also first, because then there are a lot of characters left to put in. There is also one event first. When I play Crossing, I always add copies of to Gulltown. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2, depending a little bit also, of course, on the distributions of the icons. In Stark decks, mostly intrigues are a little short, so I put 1 of to Gulltown in this deck. And
Mhm.
then there are 6 very easy cards, but 6 of my very favorite cards. It's 3 times Superior Claim, maybe my, or at least one of my 3 favorite cards overall.
Yeah.
One of the centerpieces, of course, to get the power really fast in the first rounds already, to have those two extra powers on the power challenge. Yeah, I think it's kind of a no-brainer in that kind of crossing decks who want to go fast. And also 3, I am no one. Sadly,
Mm.
the redesigned version. The original version was a really, really, really crazy card, giving insight and stealth and non-standing to even non-unique characters. But the redesigned version giving insight non-standing 2 unique characters is still pretty good. I needed to adjust the deck a little bit, which we will talk about when I talk about the characters because of the change of I Am No One, but I think the redesigned version is still good. The original version were just way above the curve.
Okay.
And then very late edition, not for Starlink but for online worlds, was when I firstly added Wolf in the Night into my deck. And now that I played it a few times, I think I should have included it way earlier, because there are, at least it's kind of a fun card compared to a lot of, I would say, more normal cards in the deck. And it can be really surprising, and it can also win you games. I mean, it's you get +3 strengths and you gain renown. So my favorite play always is or was if I can attack in the first challenge with a 1-strength character, who then has, because of crossing, 0 strengths, and then my opponent doesn't defend, and then I can play Wolf in the Night to win the challenge, get an unopposed, get claim, and get a renown. This is
Nice.
the perfect scenario. It didn't happen that often, but it already happened. But also for just to win a challenge and gain renown, it's also pretty good. So I think at Online Worlds I only played one Wolf in the Night, but at Star Lake I decided that I like that card a lot and I want to draw it. So I added a second copy for my 9 events overall, because that are all the events that went into the deck.
All right. Very nice. So one event that I don't see that I just feel like every Star Crossing plays is passing the Black Gate to pump out all the cheap characters. Why is that not in your list?
Because it's restricted.
All right.
It
Okay.
was a clear centerpiece of all versions of this deck before the restriction. Yeah, always 3 times in the deck. But when it got restricted with some other cards, I had to make a tough choice. And I decided to go with a character I will present later. I don't know. I mean, it is Passion the Black Gate, it's Gibir, it's Alisan, and it's Septa Mordain, at least from the star cards. And I think you can argue for, or you can build a deck with each of those 4. And I don't know, or I can't say which is clearly the best to pick.
All right. So I will be curious to see which one you picked then.
Yeah, like you said in the beginning, there were a lot of restrictions and a lot of redesigns throughout the different states of this deck. Also in the plotline, yeah, where a lot of cards restricted or redesigns which were originally in the deck. And every time when I think about how insanely good this deck was when all the cards weren't redesigned, that was, yeah, amazing. Or maybe not amazing. Depends on which side on the table you were. So
Yeah,
I have 19 non-characters cards, which leaves me with 42 characters, of course, because you have to play 61 cards in a real Thrones deck.
Of course.
And a lot of my decks I play above 40 characters. I'm really struggling to play less than 35 characters, and I think I panic when I have to play less than 30 characters in a deck. So yeah, I like to focus on characters and doing challenges and not being afraid of not having any characters at all and not doing challenges.
Some say that's what the game is all about, the
Yeah.
challenges and characters, right?
least
Some
the core.
decks don't reflect that, but yeah, good.
At least the core aspects of the game.
Indeed, yeah. All right. So let's hear it. 42 characters. Here we
42
go.
characters. Here we go. Yeah. So I will come back one more time to it. I decided to not play any big characters. So there is no Robb Stark for me. There is no Wyman Wenderly for me. Even if I'm sure you can argue that Robb Stark with standing always, maybe even more before the restriction, should have a place in a Star Crossing deck. But I decided to not play any of those. So my biggest character now is 3 times Great John Umber at cost 5. There were versions where I even didn't play Great John Umber and only 4 cost characters at the highest. But yeah, Hanno convinced me and some others that Great John Umber is just too good, especially in a crossing deck, to not play him. And I think all of them are right. If I have him in the first round or rounds, the Intimidated, the Stand, the 5 strengths, if there is no Nightmares, no Milk, or no Craven, I think it's really hard for my opponent to win the game.
Yeah, I never like to see him in setup when the opponent has him.
Yeah, and yeah, that's why I think I won't reduce the 3 copies of him I have anymore. And besides that, I also, so like I would say 3 cost is like the everything above 3 cost isn't that cheap anymore. Everything under 3, like 2 or 1, is really cheap, and 3 is like a little bit in the middle. And then I have also at the cost above, I also have 3 times Caitlin Stark core because you need some 4-cost characters, because even if it's not a lot, some people still play first snow. So you should have at least some characters in your deck which are cost 4 or higher. And like I said, with Off the Ghoultown, Intrigue is a little bit weak on Stark. So 3 times Caitlin Stark, because even without all those, she's just a great card, denying a lot of stuff from your opponent. So that's also an easy choice.
One of the best cards in the game, I would dare to say.
Probably, yeah. And then I added some more focus cards. I had 1 Small John Umber to just have some renown, and to have, of course, if the game ends fast, he has a lot of strength, because he starts with a 6 strength, and then the strengths get reduced every round. But 4 6 strengths for 4 cost and renown to start a game with is pretty good. And then if the game is over after 3 rounds, he was at strength 5 and strength 4, which I guess it's also good with renown for paying 4.
Yep.
And another 4-cost character, I always had at least 1 copy in my Stark of the Crossing decks, is Donella Hornwood. She reduces the first loyal card you marshal or play each round by 1. That's also a reason Small John Umber, for example, who is loyal, is also a good, including because there aren't a lot loyal cards. Northern Armory, the location, is also loyal. You can reduce Catelyn Stark, is of course loyal. And I have some more characters, but there aren't that many loyal cards, but still enough to include Donella, and even more because of the intrigue icon. And of course, she can also reduce I Am No One as a loyal event you play. So yeah, if you remember in the game that she can reduce I Am No One when you have no gold, can be good,
Nice.
and maybe can also surprise your opponent.
And also Wolf in the Night, that's also loyal, right?
Yeah, now that you say it, yeah, it's loyal.
Yep. Okay, so that makes those 2 even more surprising when you use them like you described earlier.
Yeah,
Nice.
but like I said, you have to remember it yourself to be able to do it. And
Yeah.
I can say I sometimes missed it. Okay, and I think that are all my those are not all my 4-cost characters. I have one more. I have 3 times Daisy Mormont.
Yeah.
And with 3 times Daisy Mormont, we can also at that point include 3 times Bee Island Scout, the redesigned version, because the 3 Bee Island Scout were always in my deck, because the not redesigned card of Bee Island Scout was also so crazy that you can search just your whole deck. You play 1 Bee Island Scout, you search your deck to play another Bee Island Scout, and then depends on how much gold you have, you just search for your Shibir, you just search for your Alicent, you search for your Daisy, and then you just put them into play, or you pay them. So before the redesign, I only played 1 Daisy Mormont, because you can search with the Island Scout. But the problem with the redesign, now that you only search the top 10 cards of your deck for a House Mormont card, you need more House Mormont cards to hit with the Island Scouts. And because of the restrictions of some House Mormont cards like Alicent and like Shibir, you can't include all of them anymore. And so you need 3 Daisy Mormonts to just have enough House Mormont characters to still play the Island Scout. And the card was too good before, for sure. I think now it's okay, because sadly, sometimes, or maybe even a lot of times, I don't hit a House Mormont card in the first 10 cards of my deck. So I think now it's a fair card. But because of that, I have 3 Daisy Mormont in my deck.
And you basically revealed your restricted card is Shibir then, right?
It could also be Alicent, but yeah, my restricted card is 3 times Shibir. Like I said, I don't know if it's the best choice. I haven't really tested other versions. I preferred Shibir over Passing the Plague Gate, just because, like I said before, I want to play character-heavy decks, and so Shibir is 3 characters more. And yeah, Passing the Plague Gates can better put out a lot of characters or reduce more characters, but Shibir, the one character Shibir brings into play often is enough. And of course, Alicent is also a really great card in Crossing. Non-kneeling with delves on your military challenge if you start with that, and then you also have her for the power challenge. So yeah, she could also there are for sure also Crossing decks that play her, and it's the right decision. I think it's a tough choice, but maybe that is what the restricted list should be. That you have to make a tough choice between a lot of good cards, and I think that's what it is here. And I went with Shibir.
Okay. All right. So and then you probably have a lot of 3-costers, right?
Yes, exactly. Because now I think after I missed Daisy before, now there are all my characters with 5 or 4 costs are gone, and now everything is 3 costs or lower. So I will start with some also easy additions. If you play Star Crossing, I play 3 times Arya Star Core. The stealth, the effect to put a duplicate on herself is just value. Like I said before, when you have first snow and stuff like that, tubes that just enter place are really good. So Arya is one of my favorite targets, of course, for Shibir. It's a little bit sad because she and also the 3 times Sansa Stark, Wolf of the North, I have in the deck, of course, were even better when I had 3 Septa Mordain in the deck, because she gave Arya the intrigue icon, which then was a 3 challenge, 3 icon stealth character for I Am No One. And Sansa Stark, of course, the renown and the +2 strength. But still, even without Septa, I would play Arya at 3, and I also play Sansa Stark at 3, because it's a 2-cost intrigue icon. It's still 4 strength. Even if she loses a lot of strength often in my games when I have to kill some characters, but if you finish fast enough, the strength reduction is okay. So I would still play those 2 3 times, even if I would prefer to play a deck with Thepta in those 2.
Yeah.
And then there are the other characters I would include or always include is 1 summer. I play only 1 summer core. There you can also maybe argue for 2, just to bring all of the characters or a lot of characters back when they are discarded or dead. One of my favorite targets for summer is also Daisy, because strength X is also strength 2 or lower. So, and if it's not Daisy, there are, for example, Arya or a lot of other targets to bring back. Another redesigned card that is also 3 times in the deck is Mira. I think Mira was also, when Mira was restricted back then, also not redesigned but restricted, she was in my deck for some time, I think, but then always also no one got restricted. Then Mira went out. But yeah, since the redesign, she came back in stealth, intrigue, and of course her effect when coming from shadows is just so much value. She was only cost 1 before. The cost 2 are a lot of the times expensive to bring her out. So often I just marshal her normally to just have the intrigue icon and the stealth. But in games where when you play against Targaryen, for example, and there's a Drogon or a Khal Drogo, or if you play, I don't know, against a Voltron deck and there is Jon Snow, you just marshal her into shadow and you just pay the cost, because it's just so much. You get so much from blanking the opponent characters that you just afford the 2 goals. And even if you can't play other characters, then it's enough value.
Yeah. So she's basically the only anti-card that you have, well, except for the Iron Throne.
Yeah. But I think I would also play her for cost 2 stealth intrigue, even without the textbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she survives for snow just fine as well. Goes straight
Yes.
into shadows.
Yes.
So are you trying to put her into shadows? Do you play a lot of winter plots for her?
Not a lot, but some. It was
sense.
also, I mean, yeah, the original version was when someone got sacrificed. So without playing Wyman, I think I also haven't triggered her way more back with the original version, because I didn't have that many effects to sacrifice or kill or stuff like that. So I think now maybe with the winter plots I even play her often more times than before. Yes, but sometimes I just I mean, you have to put her back. Sometimes if you can't really afford the 2 gold and there isn't a character you really want to blank on the other side, sometimes it would be better if you just stay on the board. And of course, bearing can be also a problem if an opponent plays bearing, because then she goes to the shadow and she stays there. She won't come back.
Yeah.
Another 3 cost easy include in Star Crossing for me is Osha. It's just a one time, but at least one time she has to go in. You can just do the intrigue challenge, the mill challenge, and see if the opponent defends. You just stand her again, and you have her for another challenge. And if the opponent decides to not defend, you can choose if you want to leave her in to get unopposed or to win the challenge. And if not, you just stand her.
That makes sense.
One other 3 cost character I included I think the first time for Starlake. I think it wasn't even in my online world deck, was Reek. I put 1 Reek into the deck
Mhm.
A little bit because of the intrigue icon, but more because of the fact I hated so much to play against. Because I think, yeah, basically it was because of the Crusters Keep tournament in Norway when I played against Alice from France, and she played Reek. I played Barra Alliance there, and she played Reek against my Randall Tarley with a Warhammer in round one, and I just had to concede because the game was just over. And yeah, I don't think I played him a lot in Starlek, but mostly because I didn't draw him, I think. Because yeah, you can just with him you do just intrigue challenge and your opponent can just not let it unopposed. And also I have, like, for example, Mira with stealth, so there is even a chance if I want to win the intrigue unopposed, I have characters to maybe do it. One thing that can backfire is that there is a good chance that I also can't defend intrigue challenges because I have to do my own challenges. So I have to think about if I want to give Reek to my opponent, and then he maybe can take another character from me back if I lose the intrigue challenge. But yeah, in some games, I don't know, if you play against Greyjoy and there is a Balon with 5 power and not that many intrigue icons, and you just play Reek, steal Balon and win the game. So I think you can. I think one time it's a good include for him, and it's another maybe not fun card, but at least a new card because yeah, I play this deck now for a long time, so I try to change at least some cards for every tournament. So it doesn't feel like a totally new deck, but at least some cards are different. And so this was, besides Wolf in the Night, the Reek was one of my additions to just make a little bit a new deck to play with.
Sneaky nice include, Dennis. I like it.
And another stealth character also with intrigue for Reek or in general is one Jojen Reed. Yeah, core 3, so bring him in with Shibir, intrigue icon, power icon, stealth. Not much more to say. That's just in this deck. It's just valuable. Also a very good character for I Am No One.
Yeah.
Like I said, you need unique characters now, and the stealth is gone. It's only inside. So the perfect scenario, of course, is to play I Am No One on Arya Stark, Mira Reed, or Jojen Reed, that you still have the stealth and the inside. Yeah, and so those are the three characters that have stealth naturally, and you can play I'm No One best on. Of course, also the effect when Jojen Reed stands, you reveal the top card of each player's deck, and you decide if you discard or draw those cards. There were also some decks. I think it was against Yumi, huh? When Jojen revealed Saving the Kingdom, and I decided to, of course, to discard it. And I won the game in the next round. And I think if Saving the Kingdom wouldn't be revealed by Jojen and you draw it, I wouldn't have won it. So also the effect can win games or can at least be useful.
Yeah, sure, and I think also, I guess there is only one copy of Jojen and one copy of the Iron Throne, but there is some synergy. I know I played greenside decks that relied on revealing the top card, and then the Iron Throne just calls it in marshalling to stop it being played.
Yeah, true. If you don't discard a card, because I think most of the times I draw the card because I also want to have the card and want to draw another one. Then you also know what your opponent draw, and you can name it with the Iron Throne. Yeah, true.
Okay. Which other characters are there in the Stark Swarm?
Bran Stark Core is also 2 times in. Yeah, I think there was also times I played him just once. I think there were never times I played him 3. I now play him 2 times again because, of course, if you play against event-heavy decks, he is pretty good. And his strength 1, which will be relevant when we talk about the plots in the next step. So I decided to back him up to 2 copies. And then there is also 3 copies. There's a character with still 3 copies. 3 copies of Willa Menderly. I think that's just cost 2, strength 2, intrigue. That's the easy explanation why she is 3 times in the deck. So even if I play a lot of 1-cost characters and I like them for Wolf in the Night and stuff like that, sometimes you also need a 2 strength character to do the first challenge with the strength reduction. So yeah, cost 2, strength 2, intrigue. I think she was 2 or 3 times in every of my crossing decks. And if we go through all the cards I have presented so far, I'm lacking a bit of draw. I'm no one. So if I'm no one is working great, or if I can combine it with Off to Gultown and do 3 challenges and win all those 3 challenges, I draw a lot of cards with insight. But if I don't draw I'm no one, or if I'm not able to win multiple challenges, I don't draw cards at all. So I have 2 copies of Umber Loyalist to draw 2 cards. It's also a loyal card, so 1 more for Donella Harnwood to play it for 2. The Forced Interrupt, of course, backfires a lot of times, because often I don't really want to keep him on the board for Vara do Heres compared to my other cards. And of course I can't save him for Vala Morgulis or a Wildfire. I don't really want to keep a character which is just 3/3 without stealth or anything else. So I often have to discard cards for him. But it's the same concept for these cards like for many other cards. Your goal is to end the game before it is relevant that he will leave play or that you will lose cards because of him. The game should be over in that span. And then I think there are there is 3-time Winterfell Steward as also an easy choice. I think I also play in every deck I play, I put 3 times the reducer in. I see some decks, I don't know if I see a lot of decks, but at least some decks which don't play the 1-cost reducer. But if I play a deck, the first cards I always put in are the 1-cost reducer, the 0-cost reducing location, and I think 3 times the 3 King's Road. I think those 9 cards should be in every deck I ever built and played.
Okay.
And then I think there are only 2 more cards left. Is that right, Miha? Are we with 40 characters now?
Yes, exactly.
I missed one. Okay. Then there are 2 characters left, and those 2 characters came in because of the first plot I will also present now. Because I don't know when I included this plot, maybe right after it was printed. Yeah, probably because one time the Crone is now in my deck, so each character with Bring the Strength 1 or lower cannot leave play, which I have a lot of characters I already presented, like Trojan Reed, like Mira, like the Island Scout, Bran, Winterfell Steward, of course, Reek. Those are all 1-cost characters. Not 1-cost, 1-strength characters, which can't leave play with the Crone, and I don't know how many games since I played this plot just won me the game on Vala do Heres or Vala Morgulis, because I kept all of them and had a way better position than my opponent after the reset. And because of that, I also added 1 copy of Jane Poole, because an intrigue icon and the 1 strength. And sometimes I also trigger her marshalling action, because if you sacrifice Jane Poole, you can return a lady character from your discard pile to your hand. And I also, not often, but sometimes I triggered her to get Arya or Daisy back to hand if I have enough gold in the late game to play them again. And
All right.
also one house Manderly Knight, because it's strength 1, and while there's a Winterblot card revealed, it's +2 strength, and like we talked about with Mira, there are some Winterblot cards in my deck, so sometimes it's strength 3 even, but the printed strength is 1, so it's working for the Crone, or if no Winterblot, also for Wolf in the Night. And I think those should be my 61 cards in the draw deck. If Mia agrees and I haven't missed one.
Yeah, 61, 42 characters. I think this is a record number we've had so far on the series, and I think it will stand for some time. Although there was a deck, I think early on in the game, is sometime in 2016, I think, that played something like 48 characters. It was a Stark deck that just
Okay.
played all kinds of characters, nothing else, and just the economy plots, and did pretty well. I think it won one reasonably big event in the UK at that point. So, but this is not the same type of deck. I know that deck played more expensive characters with renown. This is just
Yeah.
going for the swarm here, but it
Yeah, I
just
think
reminds me of that kind of strategy, I guess.
I think it's also a record for my Stark Crossing decks, the 42. I think I had 41 before, but because in all of those decks, Pass in the Play Gate was also in. I played most of the times I played 10 events, at least. So I think 42 is also. I played when I first played Starks in tournament. I played a Fat Cat deck, which also plays around 40 characters. Yeah, I think I just like to play a lot of characters and to put them out. And I already presented one plot, the Crone, and I want to go with my opening and maybe my favorite plot, which is one the Withering Cold,
Oh,
which was
nice.
also in this deck when I first played it, and was one of the main reasons why I liked to play the deck, because it was just different compared to At the Gates or Time of Plenty or stuff like that. It was just a different game, and it adds so much to the goal of the deck, because if you play it in the first round, you put so much pressure on your opponent, especially when they play big characters. They don't have that many characters on the board in the first round. They have to decide if they kneel their whole board to defend the challenges and don't have characters standing in the second round and need to put out more characters, or if they decide to let the character stand and let the challenges unopposed. You can, if you have also superior claim, you can easily go to 6-7 powers or something like that in the first round, which also is a problem. So if your opponent doesn't have stand or something like that, he has a problem or she has a problem, no matter if they defend the challenges or if they don't defend the challenges. And yeah, I really like this card. It's because also a lot of cards are in the deck because of the Withering Cold. I'm no one, for example. Alisan was always great with Withering Cold. Sadly now it's not playable together, or at least not if you play another restriction. Great John, of course, Great John stands itself and intimidates the opponent characters. Yeah, especially against aloof decks and stuff like that. They just have to kneel characters, have to put other characters in. It's just so much advantage. That's why I love to play this opening card.
Yeah, really nice
I
opening
like
plot, I
it.
think. I know when I play Baron Neil, and I like this plot as well, and my opponent plays it, it always makes me happy. I think, okay, they're doing the work for me, but then if a card like I Am No One gets played, that defeats the whole plan of mine. So it's a really strong combination, I think.
Yeah, but it can backfire for sure. If you play, like, for example, Baron Neil, or if I played against Greatjoy, uh, if they drew Euron and Silence in the first round, and also have the stand and Intimidate, it can backfire. Or if you play against Nightwatch lately, and they have Satar and Great Ranging and all the other stuff to stand the Intimidated army, then it can backfire. But most of the time, you're at the better end.
Mm.
Another card that also went in the deck the time it was printed and never left the deck is at the Palace of Sorrows. Also an easy one with a lot of one strength characters, and most of the times more characters than your opponent. If all characters have strength 3, you're also most of the times on the better end. And it's like your only chance if you play against Tarkburn and they have Blood of the Dragon. Like your only chance of winning the game is if you hit at the Palace of Sorrows against the Blood of the Dragon.
Yeah, or maybe
And
the crown also could
also,
potentially work.
true. Also now the crown. That's true. Now you have already 2. Maybe now I can finally win against Tarkburn. I always fear just when I see the plot and not the plot. Just when I see the faction card and I see the first turn card, I literally already lost the game because I'm in so much fear. But yeah, with the crown and at the Palace of Sorrows, you at least have a chance. And the 5 income and the 7 initiative are also just good, even without the effect. Oh, that's also one thing I really like about Withering Cold in the as my opening plot is with the 6 initiative. You most of the times you just win initiative, and it's just so good for this crossing if your opponent doesn't have an intimidated character, if you can make him go first. And you just see if they do challenges, and you can decide if you just let them unopposed, if they already kneel their board by attacking, and they have power, and you can steal it. So going second is most of the times extremely valuable, in my opinion, in crossing, especially for this star crossing, and mostly in the first round, if you can get power there. And that's also good with Palace of Sorrows with the 7 initiative. Especially before Maiden, you mostly win initiative with 7. Now with the Maiden, it's a little bit tougher, and I don't play Maiden myself.
Right.
Another plot, my reset. I always play. Always isn't true. I haven't played a reset in Tony de la Main in France with my Bara Alliance deck, but in 99% of my decks, I want to play a reset. I can't really play without a reset. Hano plays without resets a lot of times. That's maybe why in the Bara Alliance there is also sometimes no reset, because it's kind of a deck from him. But most of the time, I don't really feel comfortable without playing a reset. So there is also one reset in here, and of course it's Vala do Heres, because with all the small characters, I think there is no other option to play. I play a lot of character 3 times, so if I draw dupes, Vala Morgulis could be also good, but the 2 gold, the 0 claim doesn't add anything to finishing fast. So Vala do Heres is my only option. A lot of games I don't play it because, of course, I don't play all the 7 plots, and you can just finish without playing it. But especially last Starlake or in the last month against the big Nightwatch decks or against Greyjoy, a lot of the time you can already play it round 2. If you play Withering Cold first round and they just put out more big characters round 2 because the others are knelt, you can already play it round 3 and have a pretty good result out of it.
Mm.
One addition, I don't know if it was for Worlds or for Starlake, one of my newer plots and also one of my favorite plots for the whole time of the game. And I'm glad I can finally add it, is Fallen from Favor. Because of the 7 income, the 7 initiative, and most of the time sacrificing a character isn't that much of a drawback. You just sacrifice a character who is already knelt because of Withering Cold, or you just sacrifice a Winterfell Steward or stuff like that. You should always have a small character to sacrifice, and it is good against Valar Morghulis, Valar Dohaeris, of course, when we open and stuff like that, where you just sacrifice a character to save it, for example, or just sacrifice it and then you have the 7 gold to just after the reset. If you have She-Beer and Fallen from Favor, your opponent will feel like they never played a reset at all. Even if they play Valar Morghulis or Valar Dohaeris, you have 7 or 10 gold if you have some economy, and then you will just play She-Beer, another character, and your whole board will be back. So Fallen from Favor was one of my latest additions when all my other plots got restricted because or redesigned, because in the original version of the deck, actually the real centerpiece was 2 times return to the fields. In the not redesigned version, where you get gold and draw from the character you sacrificed, and you just played it 2 times, and you just played Withering Cold, kneeled your characters, played return to the fields, got gold, draw cards, sacrificed the kneeled characters. Your resets from your opponent didn't matter. So that was the centerpiece of the first edition of this deck. But then I think it got restricted first and then got redesigned, so I had to play other plots. Then I played Loan from the Iron Bank to just have gold in the last rounds, or my opponent plays Valar Morghulis, but then that also got restricted. And of course, the winner you die was always in the deck before it got restricted. I think maybe there were already 6 or 7 plots besides Wild Heroes which were in the deck, which are now redesigned or restricted, and I had to put out. Also Palace of Sorrows got also redesigned, but you can still play it. So I had to change plots often. I also played Political Disaster in one edition of the deck. That also depends if you expect a lot of location-heavy decks. I played Bearing the Gates in some editions when you expect a lot of shadows. And in this edition, to come to my final plots, I played 2 times Winter Festival, just to have the power gain, to have the fastest option to bring Mira back into shadows. Two more times to strength buff House Mental Unite, but I think that's not a real reason to play 2 times Winter Festival. You can always argue you can also play 1 Winter Festival and 1 Bearing or 1 other flex plot. I think that's the flex plot in here if you want to play at least a little bit a more safer version, which Political Disaster, Bearing, or anything. But of course, 2 times Winter Festival is the fastest option if you again play Withering Cold and then play Winter Festival. There is a good chance you are ahead so much in terms of power after round 2, your opponent just has to react to you. And that's the main goal or main point of the deck, that your opponent can't follow their game plan because they have to react. They have a plan before the game, they want to do that, but then you are at 10 power after 2 rounds and they can't do their plan anymore because they have to react. They can't say, all right, I will do that and that and that, and then in round 5 I will take control of the game. That's not possible if you have 10 power at the end of round 2. And so you will distract your opponent and they have to change their plan and have to react to you, and that's the whole thing of the deck. And also with the Maiden, if you can't play Withering Cold, Winter Festival also now at the moment it's a good opener. Winter Festival is also a card that changes a lot on which plots are played, because if there are a lot of summer plots are played, it's of course not that good. But with a lot of the Maiden and stuff like that, I think at the moment 2 times is okay. And yeah, I think I'm now at 7 plots, at 61 cards at the draw deck, so this should be my latest iteration of my Star Crossing deck.
All right.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks a lot. And also, for giving us a bit of the, really deep and rich history of the deck, and also what, Star Crossing, the Swarm had to deal with in terms of restrictions and redesigns. So what would you say, Miha? What is the one thing that surprised you the most when you saw that list?
Well, I thought the card types were a little more balanced. I wasn't expecting that many characters, but other than that, I would say nothing really has surprised me because I know Dennis has been playing this same deck for years, basically, and anytime a new restricted list comes out, even if this specific deck isn't dominating, they always say, okay, Star Crossing still strong, let's just put another extra card on the restricted list, and it just never seems to hurt this deck. It's always somewhere near the top of the game, I guess. Just keeps surviving. And I know when we started this series, I think Denis was one of the first names on our list to have as a guest in this particular deck. I think that is very friendly to new players and very simple game plan, and I'm really happy that we were able to do this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's pretty straightforward to play. You have your goal. You can follow your goal. You don't have to care that much for your opponent. So I think it's a good deck to play for newer players. The only problem is if you don't win in the first 3 rounds, you have a really big problem. So you shouldn't do that many mistakes in the first rounds, because otherwise you can't say, okay, I will just win in round 6 or 7 if I don't win to Minish first, if I make mistakes. But yeah, I don't know if you can make that many mistakes. Just have to attack and win the challenges. So I would say it's a very beginner friendly and I think fun deck to play, because if you like the core mechanics of the game, if you like the characters, if you like to attack, that's all of that you will get when you play this deck.
Yeah, I think not making mistakes is always good advice. So the game plan is pretty simple. So you gain power with the crossing, you gain power with your winter festivals, and then I think the part of the deck that you really need to learn if you are new to it, I guess, would be how to take maximum advantage of the Withering Cold, and then your anti-reset plot, the Crown, to time that against the reset and keep your small characters, and also Daisy. It's crazy to have Daisy survive the Harris just without having to choose her if you have the crown revealed. Stuff like that is becomes the most important part, I guess. But I think all the players can get into that routine if they play this deck a few times. Should be simple enough to learn.
Yes, for sure. But like you said, yeah, I think now with the new bloodline, especially if you maybe also reduce one Winter Festival and add one Bearing to have a little bit more versatility, I think playing the right plots at the right time is maybe the most important part. And maybe also, but it's also not that hard to decide which challenges you want to defend, and if you just don't want to defend at all because you want to attack with all, that can be necessary sometimes against other fast decks, for example. But yeah, I think if you play a few times with the deck, you will learn it pretty fast.
All right, so you already mentioned you were afraid of burn decks. That makes a lot of sense with all the small characters. Is there anything else where you struggle against? Or you said you might not even be the fastest man in the game. So is there actually something where you have a problem because they are faster still?
I think, firstly, like you said, burn is a problem, even with Crone and Palace of the Sorrows. Maybe, especially for me, maybe other players that don't fear burn that much can, with those 2 plots, survive. But for me, Drogon, also if Drogon is on the board, all my little characters will die. So that is a problem for me. Barakohor was a problem when there was a Sora High with Intimidate on the field. They could intimidate me, and they, for example, could be faster. That's why Weapons at the Door was also at first in a lot of iterations of the deck because of the 9 initiative. To win again, when Win or You Die was everywhere, you needed a plot to win initiative in the final round against Win or You Die. And because the attachments came back, for example, like against Barakohor. And if you fear attachments, I think that's still a valid choice if you want to swap one plot. Weapons at the door for me is always an option for an foreign crossing deck to also get away from the Cravens or stuff like that, Mimics, and just to have that one round where you can close the game if the 3 gold are enough. And Lannister crossing can be faster. If they have Queen Cersei and Casterly Rock and hit some of your characters, which they will hit at a high chance with Headstone Spike with 42, that can also be a problem. And I thought my kryptonite was Dark Fealty, but actually I won at Starlake in first round, and I think against another Dark Fealty. But if they have Rob, the Withering Cold just does nothing.
Yeah.
So, and if also Wildfire Assault or stuff like that, when they sometimes in the first Starlake 2019 when I lost in the top 8 against the Start Fealty, it was also they had Rob, so my Withering Cold does nothing, and then they played Wildfire Assault, and yeah, that's also a problem for that deck. And I think also when I play against Miha, if he has Robert Baratheon early enough and has some saving the kingdom for his and mine at the Palace of Sorrow plots, I think it's
So
also
that would be
hard
Fat
for me.
Robert, who can basically make all your small characters stay kneeled in the standing phase, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when this happens once time, it's just they are just locked, and yeah, I can win against him if there is no robot, and if I have some I am no ones to win the challenges with a few characters standing. If I what I said earlier, if I can make him react to me and not what he wants to do, but it's a hard matchup. The only thing that's good for me is that Celise isn't that hard for me because I have a lot of small ladies that doesn't get Neil from Celise, but yeah, Robert is a real problem.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, okay, that's a really well-rounded deck, I would say. So, is there anything else that some of the viewers should know that we didn't discuss so far?
I think they should really try the deck.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned a lot of things why I think the deck is good and is fun to play. I think for me also this is a very good deck, that's for sure. But for me it's also a fun deck. I never play decks just because they are the best decks at the moment. Mostly I play the decks because I like how I can play the decks, or because I like special cards in the deck. And I was just lucky that I really, really loved this deck, and it was also a pretty good deck. And so those two things came together, and I would say that's also important for everyone who wants to play this deck or other decks. I think you have to you ha- you must have fun playing the deck, and because the more you play with the deck and you get familiar and you get better. And I think also if you have a special style of play, you are mostly better if you play decks of that style. Of course, there are players out there that can play every deck, but a lot of players have a special style of play, and they are better when they play those kind of decks. Like for me, it's fast decks, and so I would encourage everyone to try the deck, of course, but especially players who like to play fast decks and to make a lot of challenges.
All right. Well, that was a really well-rounded deck. Thanks so much for presenting it, Dennis. There's now a very fast option for any viewers of the Friendly Council out there. So thanks, and I've learned a lot about playing fast today.
Yeah, I would also thank again for having me and my chance to contribute something for the community. So I would say thanks a lot to both of you for doing all of those videos and for doing all the stuff you are doing for the community.
Yeah, absolutely our pleasure, and you have been a great guest today, and I think this was a really wonderful episode. So I would like to also, of course, thanks all of our viewers for once again joining us, and hopefully see you next time as well. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.